Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have another great show for you today. Lindsay is back. Hello, my dear.
Oh my gosh, I missed you.
Missed you too.
I was not having a fun trip. I packed up our house in Denver because we finally have tenants. This market, as you know, for circumstances we discuss every day, is not the best to try to rent out a home, but we did it. And so I feel good that we finally have tenants in our home.
Well, glad you made it back. You missed Cenk Uygur yesterday.
That was a lot of fun. I watched the show, though. It looked good. I know that he kept you guys on your toes.
He's an entertaining personality. We really enjoyed having him. If you missed that episode yesterday, go back and check out the YouTube videos from Monday.
I saw in the comments people said that he was calmer than on TYT, but did you think so?
That's hard to believe, but I don't catch every episode of TYT, so maybe I've certainly seen, I've seen him even more combative on Piers Morgan and other places.
Yes.
So I think
maybe
we're a friendlier venue than that.
Okay. Well, coming up on Rising, Representatives Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez are both resigning from Congress over sexual misconduct allegations.
Plus, Vice President J.D. Vance suggested in an interview that Pope Leo should stay out of American political affairs.
And the New York Times ran a piece on taking a look at President Trump's mental acuity and the revived debate surrounding that. First, Robby, what is on your radar?
New York City's Zohran Mamdani is fighting Waymo, the autonomous driverless vehicles pioneered by Alphabet. The city had a pilot program to test out the driverless cars, but that test period has now ended, and the mayor so far has declined to renew it, which is a huge mistake and emblematic of why progressive and far-left Democrats cannot be trusted to govern. Driverless cars are, to be clear, dramatically safer. Every test we've run so far has shown that. This is important because car crashes kill tens of thousands of Americans every year. Along with firearms, it's like the biggest non-disease-related cause of death in this country. Driverless cars, however, can reduce these deaths 5 or 10-fold, according to studies so far. That doesn't mean driverless cars will be perfectly, completely, automatically safe in every conceivable instance. Already, yes, they're being resisted because one probably ran over a cat somewhere or something. But people have to consider relative dangers, and no serious person is prepared to argue or has any evidence to suggest the Waymo is dangerous. On the contrary, there are few innovations as likely to reduce mortality as this. So you might expect that progressive leftists would want to get on board. But no, leftists like Mamdani are fighting adoption tooth and nail. Both because they contest the safety stats, because they contest the safety stats, but because they're worried about taxi drivers and truck drivers losing their jobs. To that end, More Perfect Union, a major leftist account on X that produces high-quality video and economic literacy, released a 12-minute documentary against Waymo. Take a look.
Waymo is already in Phoenix, Austin, Los Angeles, Miami. But that's just the start.
Millions of Americans drive for a living. What happens when the second richest company in the world wants to make them irrelevant?
It's going to be just a hole in the bottom of a bucket of a local economy. Just suddenly money just leaves the city in that Waymo.
Here's a bit more from the documentary.
Drivers saw a preview of this last decade, and they're still recovering.
He drank himself to death because he lost his pride, he lost his livelihood.
This isn't a story about whether self-driving cars are safe. This is a story about what happens to society if they are. Who wins, who loses, and why none of this is as clean or inevitable as one company wants us to think.
Look, it's regrettable when people lose their job. I'm in an industry, media, which is undergoing rapid transformation. Local and print journalism has been decimated due to structural changes about how people consume the news. And while social media has helped some journalists flourish, it's also dramatically reduced employment opportunities for straight news reporters at legacy companies. But I don't know how else to say this. That's life, man. Sometimes you got to adapt with the times and look for something else. And that includes taxi and truck drivers, too. I know these were good-paying jobs in the past, but we can't freeze time and make it so the exact same labor conditions persist even when the customer base doesn't support them. Taxis and trucks were themselves new technologies that took jobs from train conductors, horse and buggy drivers, wagon wheel repairmen. Imagine if we tried to snuff out those developments in the crib because somebody's job was threatened. Actually, we don't really need to imagine it because there have always been Luddites in every century trying to break new machines because technology is going to take away their jobs. We can feel sorry for these people. We can even talk about redirecting public funds to them in order to mitigate their loss. I'm open to that, but we're absolutely not going to use government force to protect their specific job to the detriment of everyone else. But make no mistake, an anti-tech wave is coming. Actually, it's already here. Sam Altman, the CEO of AI company OpenAI, was the recipient of 2 violent attacks in recent days, with lunatics shooting up and also hurling a Molotov cocktail at his residence. This is following a big hit piece on him in the New Yorker by Ronan Farrow, the go-to journalist when you really want to smear somebody. The article's brimming with tech phobia, so perhaps we shouldn't be surprised when some crazy people take the implicit argument that Altman's tech's a threat to the human race quite literally. But look online and you'll find plenty of comments supporting the person who threw the Molotov cocktail. This is the sort of mentally disturbed philosophy that today's anti-tech left is catering to. Don't fall for it.
Oh, where do I begin? First of all, on a personal level, I'll never hop in a Waymo.
Oh my God.
They could all disappear. Count me in as the person who doesn't want to see those cars driving around. Count me as the person that lived in Phoenix for 4 years and I'm good. Count me as the person that knows that in 2026, 2 cars, this is in March and January this year, have landed on train tracks in Austin and Phoenix. I know that as a driver in all your little studies, I'm not landing on a train tracks. Take this from a person who takes the train to work every day. There's no chance of me going on the train tracks when the things come down. But these cars have done that 2 times this year.
Okay, but
no, I don't want to know stats.
What do you mean you don't care about the stats?
Okay, let's just
the stats are unambiguous.
Fine, let's talk about safety first, because I was telling you personal level about why I will never be hopping in one of those.
I mean, the safety issue isn't even contested.
But no, there's a safety issue because these cars, like I said, are tested in cities that are way less populated than New York. So let's take Phoenix, for example. It's an ideal circumstance. You have retirees, less traffic. Again, off of experience, I'm telling you, that's the case. I've also lived in New York. If Mamdani doesn't want them driving around New York where you have people at scale, construction workers, bikes flying down the side of the road, way more things and it all over the place happening while drivers are driving without an actual person in there that can look and be cognizant of all these things. I understand. No, I just told you, as a person, I won't end up on a train tracks. So not all the time. And I don't want to take risks with human lives in the car. Then there was this whole
risk by not doing it. I mean, this is not, Zohran Mamdani, to his credit, is not even arguing, like, no one is making this argument because it's solid.
I am. No, I am, because they ended up on train tracks. Tell me which person would also make that. And then let's go into your other argument. You have to let it go like horse and buggy. You have to let it go like these things didn't happen rapidly over a decade. We didn't go from horse and buggy to cars in that timeline. And so the amount, no, not in 10 years. We literally went from horse and buggy to trains.
Well,
this is like 100 of years. So if you're talking about 10 years of going from no driverless cars to driverless cars and people losing their jobs rapidly with no plan in place, you're the same person who doesn't want to hand out any government funds. So tell me, in what world are these people that were cab drivers or Uber drivers or all these other things going to figure out an income and you're going to, or any Republican is going to cut the check?
I'd sooner give out handouts than prohibit the market from providing something that is safer, that is going to save lives, that is cheaper, that is better. People are sitting around inventing things to improve society, and then Democrats and liberals and leftists are saying, no, we have to stop this.
Okay, well, some people care about working class people and they want to make sure that the people can still have a livelihood.
But how do you address what I said about like these working class jobs displaced other working class jobs? Like that's just the nature of
the speed. We always talk about the speed of technology, which is something that makes me uncomfortable. But these are not because when you're speedy, you're missing out on perfect checks and balances that would make something safer for the average American. On top of that, you're cutting out jobs at a rapid pace without being 100% sure.
The faster this gets implemented, the more lives will be saved. It's 50,000 car deaths a year.
Okay, what about the problem that Waymo picked up a child, I believe, in California when they weren't supposed to, a minor? You're not supposed to pick up kids under 18. There's a lot of mistakes being made by Waymo that don't make me comfortable. I don't want my kid to be able to hop in a Waymo randomly and I didn't say she could. That's not appropriate. From school, somebody catches a Waymo. I don't even know how this thing works. Do you raise your hand? Like you call up on the app? Kids have access to technology.
You have to understand that, but you have to play the statistics game. And
statistically, there's no chance I'll be on a train track. Statistically.
Okay, but it could be somebody else. It could be somebody careens into you. It could be you could be doing everything right as a driver and a drunk driver runs you over. You don't have to be a driver. A drunk driver can run you down on the street. We're mitigating that.
But why are you so
because
upset?
People can just hop in an autonomous vehicle.
Why are you so upset about healthy skepticism of these new technologies? I think that's important. Like if Ronan Farrow, and I know he does write hit pieces, but if anybody has a criticism, don't connect that to a deranged psychopath that then tries to hurt Sam Altman. Like, no, there's people that are actually putting healthy criticism out about the tech space because it's an unknown space.
These
and
are
I think that has to happen simultaneously, and that's always happened.
18th century wanted to smash the cotton gin and whatever else that was about to invalidate backbreaking farm
cotton gin
labor.
didn't happen over a decade. Okay, you're talking about tens.
The faster
years
this
of
happens,
decades.
the fewer people will die, and I can't believe that Democrats want to get on the wrong side of it. But Vice President J.D. Vance seemingly telling the Pope to mind his business after he called for an end to the war in Iran. We'll be right back.